I believed every word he whispered, every promise he made. His reassurances that I was more than enough, that our love was unbreakable. I clung to those vows like a lifeline. Then one ordinary afternoon, while sorting through a pile of bills and receipts on our kitchen counter, I found a single inconspicuous receipt with unfamiliar details. My hands froze as I realized it wasn't for groceries or utilities. It was a bank transfer labeled with a date and a note that made my heart sink. In that moment, the foundation of our relationship crumbled. The man I trusted had been funding a hidden backup relationship. I still remember how our love story began, a time when everything felt simple and pure. We met at a small coffee shop downtown on a rainy day. His smile was warm, genuine, and when he looked at me, I felt an instant connection, as if our souls recognized each other. We spent long hours talking about our dreams, our past, and the future we hoped to build together. Every conversation felt like a promise, every gentle "I love you" a pledge of devotion. I believed that with him I was enough, that our love was complete and no one else could ever come between us. His words painted a picture of a future filled with shared successes and quiet evenings, of a home built on mutual trust and unwavering support. As our relationship deepened, our lives naturally intertwined. We moved in together into a modest apartment in a bustling neighborhood. We decorated our space with little trinkets and photos that chronicled our journey, a snapshot of our first trip together, candid smiles at family gatherings, and lazy Sunday mornings spent curled up on the couch. He was attentive, always finding ways to remind me how much I meant to him. Every time he said, "You're enough for me," I felt a swell of pride and love. I poured my heart into our plans, dreaming of a future where our bond would only grow stronger with time. Yet, amid our shared moments, there were subtle hints that not everything was as it seemed. Over time, he began to work late more frequently, and there were evenings when he would leave our apartment abruptly, offering vague excuses about important business. I chalked these moments up to the demands of his high-pressure job. Still, a small seed of doubt began to grow quietly in the back of my mind, though I pushed it aside with the belief that I was simply being oversensitive. One day, while I was sorting through a stack of financial documents in our living room, I noticed a receipt that I couldn't immediately place. It was tucked away beneath some old bills, a bank transfer receipt with details that didn't match any of our shared expenses. The description was vague, but the date caught my eye. It was on a night he had insisted he was working late. My heart pounded as I turned the paper over, scanning for any clue that might explain it. There was nothing, just a bank transfer to an account I'd never heard him mention, accompanied by a small note, "For special nights." I felt as if the floor had dropped out from beneath me. Every word he had spoken about our future, every promise that I was enough, was suddenly filled with doubt and despair. That evening, I sat alone in our dimly lit living room, the quiet punctuated only by the sound of the rain outside. I couldn't shake the image of the receipt from my mind. I picked up his phone that lay carelessly on the coffee table and, with trembling fingers, began to search through his financial apps. There, buried among routine transactions, were several transfers, each with dates that coincided with the nights he had been unaccounted for. The amounts were significant, far beyond what I would have expected for mundane expenses. My pulse quickened as I realized that these were not random errors or innocuous gifts. They were deliberate, calculated payments meant to support something he'd been hiding, a secret relationship that I had never been a part of. Over the next few days, my mind was a chaotic whirlwind of emotions. I replayed every memory, the late nights he'd come home, the distant look in his eyes when I asked about his day, the gentle reassurances that everything was fine. Now, all those moments were tainted by the cold evidence of his deception. I spent long nights rereading the receipt, tracing the bank transfers, and trying to piece together the full extent of his hidden life. I created a folder on my laptop labeled Truth and painstakingly saved screenshots of every bank transaction that I could find. Each new piece of evidence was like a hammer blow to the fragile foundation of trust one had built over the years. As I confronted the reality of his betrayal, a deep sorrow took root in my heart. I felt as if I had been living in a beautiful dream, a future where our love was my safe haven, only to awaken in a cold, harsh reality filled with lies. I was devastated, not just by the fact that he had been unfaithful, but by the realization that every time he said, "You're enough for me," it was a carefully rehearsed line meant to conceal his true intentions. The man I loved had built a secret financial lifeline to support a backup relationship. A relationship that was as hidden as it was deceitful. I knew that I could no longer let this betrayal fester in silence. I reached out to my closest friend, a compassionate soul who had always been there for me, and over cups of tearful coffee in a quiet cafe, I recounted every painful detail. "You deserve to know the truth," she said softly, her eyes filled with sympathy. "You deserve a love that is genuine, not one built on secrets and lies." Her words, though simple, gave me the strength to take the next step. I had to confront him. In the days leading up to the confrontation, I wrestled with a storm of emotions. Heartbreak, anger, and a profound sense of betrayal that threatened to engulf me. I found myself questioning everything. Had I been too trusting? Had I ignored the subtle signs out of love? The answers were painful and clear. I had placed my faith in a promise that was nothing but a facade, and now I had to reclaim my dignity. I spent hours rehearsing what I would say, standing before the mirror until my voice, though trembling, was filled with resolve. "I trusted you with every part of my heart," I practiced, "and now I see that your promises were lies. I deserve honesty, and I deserve a future built on truth." Each repetition was a silent vow to myself that I would not allow his deception to define my life. The day of the confrontation arrived on a cold, overcast afternoon. The sky was heavy with gray, mirroring the weight in my heart. I sat in our living room, the folder of evidence clutched in my hands like a talisman of truth, waiting for him to return from one of his late nights. Every minute felt like an eternity, each tick of the clock echoing the slow beating of my broken heart. Finally, when he walked through the door, his face wore the same calm mask he had always worn, a mask that now struck me as a painful irony in the face of the truth. I stood, took a deep breath, and met his eyes with a mixture of sorrow and unyielding determination. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. He paused, his eyes briefly flickering with uncertainty as they landed on the folder on the coffee table. I opened it, revealing the screenshots of hidden bank transfers, the receipts that detailed unauthorized expenses, and the meticulously saved digital evidence that told a story of betrayal. "I trusted you," I said, my voice cracking as the weight of every broken promise surged through me, "and you swore I was enough. But these transactions, these secret transfers, they show that while I was busy building our future together, you were creating a safety net for someone else. A backup relationship hidden from me." His face went pale as the truth sank in, and for a long moment, there was only silence. A silence heavy with the echoes of every "I love you" that now rang false. He tried to speak, to offer explanations that might justify his actions, but every word he uttered was met with the stark, unyielding evidence before me. I pressed on, demanding answers for every transaction, every late-night expense that confirmed his secret life. "How could you?" I asked, tears streaming down my cheeks. "How could you promise me everything and then build a hidden future with someone else?" His attempts at apology were weak and faltering, unable to mask the guilt that shone in his eyes, a guilt that confirmed every suspicion and every painful revelation. In the aftermath of that heartbreaking confrontation, I withdrew into a long, solitary period of grief and reflection. I wandered through the empty rooms of our home, each one a haunting reminder of the dreams we had once shared, a future now tarnished by lies. I spent countless nights alone, the evidence of his betrayal replaying in my mind like a relentless refrain. Every moment we had spent together, the laughter, the shared hopes, the tender "I love yous," now felt like memories of a love that had been built on deception. The pain was excruciating, a deep wound that threatened to consume me, yet amid that darkness, I began to discover a quiet strength emerging from within. I sought refuge in therapy, meeting with a compassionate counselor who helped me navigate the tangled web of emotions that his betrayal had unleashed. In the safety of those sessions, I learned to confront the sorrow, the anger, and the overwhelming sense of loss. I poured my heart out into my journal, each word a cathartic release that slowly began to heal the deep, raw scars left by his lies. Over time, I came to understand that while the pain of betrayal might never fully vanish, it could be transformed into a source of resilience, a testament to the strength I possessed even in the darkest of moments. The process of healing was neither quick nor easy. There were days when the weight of his deception felt unbearable, when every memory of our shared past was a painful reminder of the trust one had lost. I questioned my own judgment, wondering if I had been too naive or if I had ignored subtle signs that now made perfect sense. But slowly, with the unwavering support of my friends and the gentle guidance of my therapist, I began to reclaim my sense of self. I realized that I was not defined by his betrayal, that my worth was not diminished by his hidden life. I was, instead, a survivor, a woman with an unbreakable spirit and the strength to rebuild my future on my own terms. I decided that I could no longer let the deception that had torn through my heart dictate my destiny. I made the difficult decision to end our relationship, A decision that, while painful, felt like the only path to reclaiming my life. With a heavy heart, I began the legal process of separation. The process was arduous and filled with moments of profound sorrow, as I had to relive the betrayal in every court session and every meeting with the attorney. Yet each step away from that false future was also a step toward a future defined by honesty and self-respect. I secured my rights, divided our shared assets, and gradually prepared to leave behind the life that had been built on lies. Leaving our home was one of the most painful yet liberating moments of my life. I packed my belongings slowly, each item a bittersweet memento of the love we had once nurtured: a framed photograph from our wedding day, a box of handwritten letters, the little trinkets that once symbolized our shared dreams. With trembling hands and a heart heavy with sorrow, I stepped out of that house, leaving behind the echoes of laughter and the ruins of a future I had once believed in. I moved into a modest apartment in a quiet neighborhood, a space that I gradually transformed into my sanctuary of healing and new beginnings. I decorated it with bright colors, filled it with personal touches that reminded me of who I truly was, and each morning as the soft light filtered through my curtains, I whispered a silent promise to myself, that I would rebuild my life on my own terms, with truth as its foundation. In the weeks and months that followed, I dedicated myself to the slow, arduous process of healing. Therapy became my steady companion. In the quiet of my counselor's office, I learned to untangle the complex emotions of anger, grief, and self-doubt. I wrote in my journal with a fervor I had never known, each entry a raw testament to the journey from heartbreak to healing. I began to see that while the scars of betrayal might never completely vanish, they could serve as powerful reminders of the strength I had discovered within myself. A strength that had carried me through the darkest nights and was now guiding me toward a future filled with hope. Publicly, the story of our crumbling future became a quiet undercurrent among our circle of friends and family. Whispers of sympathy, sideways glances, and heartfelt conversations followed me wherever I went. I began to share fragments of my journey on a personal blog, writing candidly about the betrayal, the confrontation, and the painstaking process of rebuilding my life from the ashes of deception. The response was overwhelming. Messages of support from strangers who had faced similar betrayals, kind words from old friends who reminded me that my worth was never in question. Every message, every shared story served as a beacon of hope, affirming that even in the face of profound betrayal, the human spirit has the power to rise, to heal, and to create a new future. As the months turned into a year, I slowly rediscovered who I was before the betrayal: a woman with dreams, passions, and an unyielding capacity for love. I ventured back into the world of dating cautiously, each new encounter approached with a blend of guarded optimism and the hard-won lessons of my past. Every sincere smile, every kind word exchanged, helped to mend the shattered pieces of my heart, stitching together a new tapestry of hope and resilience. I learned that true love must be built on transparency, that every promise is sacred when honored with honesty, and that I was worthy of a partner who would cherish my trust as much as I cherished his. Now, as I sit in the soft, forgiving light of my modest apartment, a space that stands as a testament to my journey from heartbreak to healing, I reflect on the long, winding road that has led me here. The memory of that hidden evidence, the spare key that unlocked a secret life, the bank transfers that revealed a web of lies, the digital confessions that shattered every promise, remains etched in my heart as a painful reminder of the fragility of trust. And yet, it is also a testament to the strength I discovered within myself, a strength that allowed me to confront the truth, reclaim my dignity, and rebuild my future on my own terms. Every sunrise now is a promise of new beginnings, a chance to rewrite my story, to redefine my future, and to embrace a life built on honesty, respect, and self-worth. I have learned that betrayal, as devastating as it can also serve as a catalyst for profound transformation, a painful yet powerful invitation to rediscover who we truly are beneath the layers of shattered promises. I now move forward with an unshakable conviction that I deserve a love that is genuine, transparent, and built on mutual respect, a love that honors my trust and cherishes my heart. This is my story, a journey of shattered illusions and heartbreaking betrayal, and ultimately the triumphant reclamation of my life. I trusted him with every whispered "I love you," every promise of forever, and every shared dream of a future built together. But when I discovered that his blueprint for our shared life included secrets meant for another, hidden bank transfers, clandestine messages, and a world of lies, I was forced to confront a painful truth. In that moment of devastating clarity, I found the strength to gather every piece of evidence, to face the truth head-on, and to reclaim my future from the ruins of his deception. Every tear, every sleepless night, Every moment of raw, unfiltered pain has led me to this place. A place where I stand unbroken, determined to live a life defined by truth, self-respect, and the unwavering belief that I am worthy of a love that is real. Now, as I step boldly into each new day, I carry with me the lessons of the past and the hope for a future that is entirely my own. A future where every promise is honored with honesty, every dream is built on a foundation of trust, and my heart is free to love without fear. Every sunrise is a fresh canvas, a chance to rewrite my story, to shape my destiny, and to embrace a life filled with genuine love and unwavering truth. I am the architect of my own future, and with each new day, I choose to build a life that is not defined by the betrayals of the past, but by the brilliant, resilient light of hope, truth, and self-respect.